This is the Jeep Compass Diesel Automatic, something that many of you have been waiting for a long time. So long, in fact, that you might even believe that this is the facelift, because it looks a bit different than the regular Compass, doesn't it? Just that it isn't a midlife makeover, but a new variant altogether. This is the Jeep Compass Trailhawk. And it distinguishes itself with a badge that Jeep says needs to be earned. In the Jeep scheme of things, that badge simply means that the car needs to be ready out of the box to take on off-road trails. And to that effect, the Jeep Compass Trailhawk also gets some specialty equipment. So at the rear, you will notice this red tow hook, which has a capacity of pulling up to 1.5 times the weight of this car. So that essentially means you can pull out your Jeeper buddies out of sticky situations or over obstacles, and you will be able to do it better. The towing capability of the Trailhawk is better in that sense compared to the regular Compass. If you have been following the Trailhawk for some time, you will notice the absence of such tow hooks at the front of this car. And that is because of new pedestrian crash safety norms. However, you continue to get the slashed bumpers. The sharp design or the sharp profile of the bumpers allows the Trailhawk to have more extreme approach and departure angles compared to the regular Compass. And if you've taken this car off-roading, you'll have noticed that the chin scrapes quite often. This design eliminates that problem. The ground clearance, even that is up. 175 millimeters on this car, 205 millimeters on the Trailhawk. That's 30 mm more. The snorkel, even that has been repositioned. It has been moved up, so it sits about 720 millimeters off the ground on the regular Compass, 840 millimeters in the Trailhawk. So it has better water wading capabilities as well. And that's useful not only in the water crossings in the wild, but also in the water logging in the concrete jungles. Furthermore, the Trailhawk gets skid plates and enhanced underbody protection against the elements. You also notice a big patch of matte black paint on the hood, which cuts out the glare and the reflection when you are at varied angles on the trails. Quite thoughtful that. It can come in handy when you are at extreme angles, pointing towards the sky, or maybe even staring down a steep slope. In fact, we had plenty of that yesterday as we went rock crawling with the Trailhawk. Take a look. The Compass Limited 4x4 itself was quite a capable vehicle off the road, but the Trailhawk sets a new benchmark for the entire class. And the fact that it is an automatic means that it is all the more convenient if you aren't a seasoned off-road enthusiast. So there's also now a rock mode, which joins the already long list of terrain modes that the Compass has. But by rock mode, we are talking about a mode for rocky terrain and not a mode to help the car in rocking forward and back like you would on a manual transmission when you are in a sticky situation. The Trailhawk also adds the all-important low-range gearing with a crawl ratio of 20:1. As before, this Compass 2 is predominantly a front-wheel driven car, but you can lock the rear differential and engage the 4 low to tackle terrain that most SUVs in its category won't even attempt. But the bigger question is, are you ready to push your car to those lengths? Well, if you buy yourself a Compass Trailhawk, I think you should, and you will enjoy it a lot. It's a great starting point. If you consider cars like the Thar or the Gurkha or the D-Max to be too bulky, too utilitarian, or too basic, or too hardcore also, then I think the Compass is far more comfortable. It's easier to drive both on and off the road. The only next best thing to this is maybe a Fortuner or the Endeavour, which are in a completely different price bracket. So, like I always say, the Compass to me is more like 90% of the Fortuner or the Endeavour's capabilities at almost 70% of the price, which is a great value. So from that sense, I think the Trailhawk is a great starting point because it is capable and comfortable at the same time. this is the leisure bit, of course. If you've been waiting for the Compass diesel automatic like most people out there, it is probably for the on-road convenience. That convenience comes courtesy of a 9-speed dual-clutch transmission from ZF. Now, it's the same family of compact and transversely mounted transmissions that you also get in cars like the Honda CR-V or the Land Rover Discovery Sport, the Evoque. Now, I'm usually a big fan of the ZF transmissions, especially the ones that go in BMWs, but this particular transmission I'm not a big fan of. It's not in the same league. It's quite quick to downshift, but it takes a little while to upshift. It revs quite a bit, it stays there for quite some time and then moves to the next gear, and that kind of gets annoying, especially with the kind of diesel flatter that this engine has. So you don't want it to rev all the way up, stay there for too long. So that's my only grudge with it. It's not in the same league of the other ZF transmissions that usually leave me impressed. But it's a characteristic of this transmission, and you've seen it across all the cars that I just mentioned. That performance robs the Compass Trailhawk of the sprightly nature that its manual counterpart is known for. That shortcoming is highlighted further when you hit the twisties, where the gearbox fails to keep up with your intentions of a spirited drive. Paddle shifters could have offered some respite, but there are none. Be patient with your throttle though, and the gearbox responds well to part throttle inputs. On the road then, the Compass Trailhawk comes across as more of a laid-back highway cruiser and a convenient urban runabout. And frankly, that convenience is hard to ignore once you've experienced the heavy clutch on the manual Compass. Under the painted hood is a slightly revised 2-litre multi-jet 2 diesel engine that we've enjoyed so far in the Compass. And now it is the only engine in its category or in its class to be BS6 ready or BS6 compliant. It's a little down on power now. It puts out about 170 PS compared to the 173, 174 PS on the regular Compass. But this engine will also roll out in the other variants of the Compass very soon. And to maintain cleaner emissions, it also needs a constant dose of urea, or commonly known in this particular reference as AdBlue. Now, AdBlue is not very expensive. It will have to be added at regular intervals, maybe after about every 2,000, 3,000 kilometers. And that's going to be available at most dealerships, most oil dealership, lubrication dealerships, or even at your regular fuel stations very soon. They're not rolling it out that frequently right now, but it's easily available. A lot of trucks also already use it, so it shouldn't be difficult to get. And like I said, it's not too expensive. If anything, it helps you with cleaner emissions, and that's a good thing. Apart from the cleaner emissions, Jeep has also taken measures to ensure that the Compass Trailhawk has a decent fuel economy. The 9-speed ZF transmission is known to be more fuel efficient than the comparable 6-speed automatic transmissions. On the other hand, the engine is also mated to an electric start-stop system, which if used, claims to bump up fuel economy by around 6%. The Compass Trailhawk also gets purpose-built all-terrain tires. The pattern is a little similar to the tires that you already get on the Limited 4x4, but the sidewall on this one is thicker, and that is for better protection against sharp rocks when you're driving on trails or when you hit potholes that have sharp edges, something that's very frequent during the monsoons. Also, despite their all-terrain profile or their all-terrain design, they are not very noisy. Usually all-terrain tires tend to be quite noisy, but they are not as noisy. The friction noises are not too much, and you don't hear much of it in the cabin. And that's a very good thing. In fact, the overall noise insulation of the cabin has a marginal improvement over the regular Compass, but you can still hear that diesel engine quite a bit inside the cabin, more so because of this automatic transmission that just loves to keep revving. Speaking of the cabin, there's a new instrumentation on offer now with a 7-inch full-color multi-info display. The infotainment is a larger one too, from the Limited Plus trim that was launched last year. It even gets the panoramic roof from the Limited Plus, but misses out on powered seats, auto headlamps, and rain-sensing wipers. The cabin itself is done up in black, which I like, but it also makes it look a lot more compact than ever. But the sporty red accents offer some respite. As always, the cabin of the Compass is secured with some of the best-in-class safety features, but the Compass Trailhawk takes it a step further. The side and the curtain airbags are marginally larger than the regular car, and that is because this car has an increased off-road intent, so there's every chance, an increased chance of a rollover happening. And they don't want you to be falling out of the windows in case a rollover happens, and you need to have optimum protection. in case a rollover happens. So there is a rollover mitigation as well, but there's also a larger size for the side and curtain airbags to protect you better. You don't get that feeling that the Compass is going to roll over, whether you're driving on tarmac, around twisties, off the road. It has that sense of security, it has that sense of safety in here. Even with its increased ride height, it doesn't feel wallowy, there's no vertical movement, body roll is minimal, it just feels just as taut, as stiff as the regular Compass, and that's the beauty of it. It's a pity really that the gearbox doesn't complement the handling prowess of this car or the capabilities of the underrated FSD suspension. Even then, I think it's a phenomenal package. The kind of security that it offers, the build quality that it has, the overall fit and finish of the materials, the kind of confidence that it inspires when you're driving at highway speeds or around twisties, the eagerness with which it goes off the road, and the authority with which it takes on broken roads. I think it's a phenomenal package, and it's a balance that's very hard to find in a car of this category, or it's hard to find in one car, and the Compass achieves all of that, whereas the Trailhawk takes it a step further. So if you have been eagerly waiting for that diesel automatic, if you've been waiting for over a year now, I think it's time that you got it already.